Wow, that's a good question. So it's a good question because I've made a lot of mistakes, and I've been at this now for over 13 years, and so certainly I've made a lot of mistakes, and that's okay, right? Making mistakes is part of growing. It's part of learning. It's part of expanding our knowledge and skill set. And the marketers that are afraid to make mistakes are the ones that grow the slowest, if at all, and struggle the most for fear of doing something wrong. When the reality is, I look at mistakes as just bringing me one step closer to the success that I'm looking for, the outcome, the result, the knowledge that I'm ultimately looking for. So, what is the biggest mistake? Wow. I think, one of the things that I've talked about before that, and it's one of the biggest mistakes that I would do. It's one of the biggest mistakes that I would, if I could do things over again, I would do differently. And I think the one that immediately comes to mind that I've talked about many times before is I would have learned media buying, paid traffic generation a lot earlier. I would have, the biggest mistake I think that held back the growth of my earlier companies from being kind of, like a massive trajectory was trying to generate traffic and leads on the least budget or the smallest budget possible and not being willing to invest in the acquisition of customers. And once I began to invest heavily and more aggressively into the acquisition of customers, that's when the business took off. And nobody that I know that has achieved call it even a 7-figure business, has done so without aggressively investing in media buying, traffic generation, and customer acquisition. The idea that you could have a marketing budget or a traffic generation budget of $1,000 or $2,000 a month and expect to grow a $100,000, $200,000, $500,000 a month business is, I think, crazy. And sure, there are stories and case studies of the anomaly of a particular blogger that did it or somebody that did it with a podcast, but that is an anomaly, or those are anomalies, those are rarities. The reality is the only predictable, reliable, scalable method to grow a business is when you can pay to acquire a customer. And I wish I got started not only with paid traffic earlier, but I wish that very early on I understood really what it is that I could afford to spend to acquire a customer and really find the threshold, because the more that you can spend to acquire a customer, the more customers that you can acquire, the more you can do to acquire customers, the more you can do to scoff up the lion's share of prospects in your market. And so to avoid that mistake, make sure that number one, you have a funnel in place that allows you to convert cold traffic. That's certainly what we're all about at Marketing Funnel Automation and the marketer's mind, and now tapping into the marketer's mind. And so you've got to have that in place. That's the first piece. Then it is immediately get to cold traffic and begin testing cold traffic, and then go from testing cold traffic to really scaling cold traffic as you understand your metrics, as you understand what is the average cart value or the average front-end transaction value from a new sale, what is the average lifetime customer value, and what is it that you are willing to spend to acquire a customer. How aggressive are you willing to get to acquire a customer?